Hey guys, the Insane Duelist here. So, as per usual, at least now, we are going to do the review for Final Fantasy X, even though the game has been out for a while. So this game has been one of my favorite Final Fantasy games, just for the fact that this was the first time that it was fully 3D. It actually had world building, and the biggest thing was the voice acting because in previous Final Fantasies was no voice acting, so we'll explore that a little bit. We will not be talking about the soundtrack because obviously I had to use um, my own personal soundtrack for the game to avoid copyright and all that jazz. So we'll get into the story overview.
Step into the dueling dimension gaming tavern.
So for the story, unlike a lot of the previous Final Fantasies where the main character was known to be someone to battle, like 7 had Cloud, who was a mercenary, 8 had Squall, who was in a military academy, 9 had Zidane, who basically a thief. We start with Titus or Titus, however you want to pronounce it. He was a blitzball player from Anakin, and basically, due to unforeseen circumstances, gets pulled into Spira after Sin attacks. Biggest question here is how does he know how to fight and swing a sword? But that's besides the point. And then Yuna, who's a summoner on his pilgrimage, and he gets dragged into that to defeat Sin by getting all the Aeons and then going for the final summoning. The story resembles obviously the pilgrimage trip that a lot of different faiths in the world today actually do. You'll go to the religious sects of the world, to pray and whatnot. The big mysteries is what is sin? Why is Titus here? How did he get here? Obviously, we know sin brought him there, but like, how is he there? At first, he thought, oh, I can go back home in a day or two, but that's obviously not the case. Um, this world, unlike where he grew up, where everything was laid back and technology did everything, circled around violence, sacrifice, and tradition. Um, Titus is an outsider, so it's very difficult for him to integrate into his new life um, within Spira, and he has to conform, but he doesn't really conform because he like questions everything. So now we'll get into the actual characters themselves. So unlike previous Final Fantasies, these characters don't always fit into the typical cliche. Whereas Titus, yeah, he is the main character, which we found that in the very beginning. Obviously, he has flaws, like, but he is the one that's questioning everything and wants everything. He goes from very immature to and self-focused athlete, or blitzball, to compassionate leader, and is the last one to realize that um, is basically going to summon the final Aeon to die, even though it's only get rid of Sin for a few years and then it comes back. Um, his viewpoint drives the story's questioning of tradition. Like he's always questioning tradition, like why is his biggest thing. Uh, why should Yuna marry? Why should Yuna make everybody happy? Why should Yuna sacrifice her life for uh, serious sin? Why can't we use Machina? All of those questions. Yuna is gentle and strong and very young. She's the emotional center of the game. She's torn between duty and personal desire. Like she never knows whether She wants to complete her duty and uh, complete her job and her pilgrimage because the pilgrimage means her death, or if she should pursue her personal desires of get married, that type of thing. Wanting to see Anakin with Judas. Um, and then she evolves around obedience, like, hey, this is what I do. This I chose to be a summoner. This is what I have to do. Blind obedience to the cause without questioning. Head knowing that she's heading straight for her death. Orin is the typical mentor person. He falls into those Gandalf, uh, Dumbledore, Obi-Wan Kenobi tropes. Um, but he carries guilt of his past events. Like, he's technically dead, as you find out. Playing through the game, he's the mature one because he's the oldest. He's already been down this road. He's already been a guardian to High Summoner Nebraska which is Yuna's dad. So he already knows all the secrets and the crap that the party's about ready to deal with. And then Waka is the diehard person that obeys Japan's teachings. He's the average citizen. Um, he definitely struggled with prejudice, especially towards the Albad. Was not happy when he found out Riku was an Albad. Very, very questioning um, his beliefs, especially when he finds out Yuna's an Albad. Um, so as much as he wants to obey the teachings, like in the earlier game where we all had to use Machina with the Crusaders, eventually he learns to just kind of accept it and move on with his life. We lose the calm one, but she's emotionally guarded, especially with having lost Chapu, who she's engaged with. She acts as a voice of reason, carrying her anger for like listening with Chapu. Uh, and then she has a strong connection to Yuna's upbringing. Like she was there from the start with her in the temple and helping her through life. Mari was the one that Oren left left with to get Yuna to Besaid. He's quiet and loyal. He's a Ronso. He's always trying to figure out where he belongs because he doesn't feel like he belongs with his own people half the time. And then Riku's an Albed, and their struggle against discrimination. Like she struggles with being targeted and always worried that someone's gonna hate her. She challenges the group's assumptions about technology, how they should use it, and what technology was new, what technology, and challenging tradition. Even funnier when they get into the Val and Waka is appalled the fact that the Temple of Gravel is all about technology. So now the world and the lore. So the world is actually shaped um, by sin mainly, but each region has a distinct identity. Where in previous games, like I don't feel like the cities have distinct identities for the most part. But in this one, like the say, it is peaceful and intimate, and everybody kind of knows each other. Uh, Apparently, it's been detected before because you do see ruins in the town. Like, there's one house in there that was destroyed and was never rebuilt. Then you go to Kilika, which shows the kind of devastation that sin can unleash and shows the emotional impact because people dying, that jazz from sin. And Luca being one of the bigger cities shows that they do have fun and and it's one of the busier cities and more lively places because of the football stadium, Doge slash Makalania, mystical and spiritual. It's on the outskirts. Like there's not really a well, I guess there's a city technically. No. Well, no, sorry, I was thinking the wrong one. Doge and Makalani. Doge is the uh Ixion and Makalani of the Shiva. There's not really towns there. It's just more of hey, here's the temple type of deal. The Thunder Plains is harsh, like especially if you want to get like the celestial weapons and you have to dodge 200 lightning bolts. But that's besides the point. Um, and the enemies there are definitely get a lot stronger. And then you go through Mount Gagazet, which is the Sacred Ronso territory, and they are a strong people, so they could even prevent your pilgrimage if they so chose. And then Xanarkand being the last place that you actually visit, which is then kind of hits home to Titus that hey, I am in the future type of deal. Because you get to see the ruins of Xanarkand. Um, and that's when you kind of feel where everything is ancient and everything has been lost. So then we move to the combat system, which is the traditional turn-based combat system instead of active turn-based, which is what we've used in the past, where traditional means uh, basically everybody has their turn, like no one can like skip a turn or anything like that. You can actually see the turn order on the right hand side, and it allows you planning it. And then when you use stuff like Kastaga and slow and that type of thing, it'll actually show you the changes in the turn order. You can swap uh, characters mid battle, which is definitely something different that we haven't had before. And each character has a definitive defined role. Or Caius is speed and agile. Those are the type of enemies he excels against. Waka is always against flying foes. Lulu deals elemental magic against those type of characters. Orin, when they're strong and armored, he's your go-to. Kamari is very flexible, like pretty much his sphere grid, so to speak. I know I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but his sphere grid is linked to just about everybody's except for Orange, so you can actually go into anybody's sphere grid that you wish. Riku is items and customization. Um, a lot of times you just want her for stealing. Let's be honest. Um, she also makes semi good magic healer at sometimes or healer, depending what you want to do with her. And then Yuna is always summoned and healing, but it's also good for her to go into magic because of her healing stat is already a magic stat. Moving her into Lulu's your grid actually helps her out a bit. Um, and then Aeons act as temporary party replacements. Unlike previous games where it was just you call the Aeon or GF or summon, whatever you want to call it at this point. It comes in, it does its thing, and it leaves. Whereas this, it actually stays longer, but problem is after the first um, few areas, I feel like the ones kind of lose their charm in this. It comes back to just get them their final attack, and when you go into boss fights, just unleash the Aeon's final attack and then bounce it. And then we'll move into progression and customization. So I know I touched on it a little bit, but the progression and customization is different because of the sphere grid, which is a completely different way of leveling. Um, I always completed the entire sphere grid for each character. So not like the entire thing, but their uh, each of their sections, like Titus would finish his, which was all speed. Waka was like detrimental attacks. Nilu was always for magic. Orin was power moves. Kamari, depending where you wanted to send me. Riku was all about stealing and Gil and that type of thing. And Yuna was all the healing magic. Titus, I would always floated him into Orin's section. Waka, I floated into Titus's section. Lulu went to Yuna. Um, Orin went to Titus so he could get faster. Kamari, I always never knew what to do with Kamari. But this time around, I went into Riku's grid and then I moved in from Riku's grid into um, Lulu's grid. Riku again went from her grid to Lulu's grid, and Yuna went straight to Lulu's grid. Um, the celestial weapons are pain. I got mad at it in this one. I've only ever gotten Titus's once because of that freaking Chocobo race. But I did do the hidden Maons, and you saw we got Anima by getting all the destruction spheres at each of the temples. And then from there, we went and found Anima at Baja Temple, which we found out was Suna's mother. So that was a nice and interesting surprise. And then we got Yojimbo by paying him an arm and a leg with money. And then the last one was Magus Sisters, which them you had to keep beating that one summoner and then getting certain items. And then once you had those items, you was able to go and get the Magus Sisters. So the big themes was like faith versus truth. The big thing was Titus always questioning everything, Walker always wanting to blindly follow everything. That was the big thing with those two. And then there's always the cycle, which is once again always the cycle of death. It seems like that's what a lot of games are, is the cycle of death. You sacrifice yourself, you kill sin comes back, and then the cycle continues when the new set of summoners. And those identity and legacy, Titus never really liked his dad, couldn't live up to his expectations, couldn't live up to him as a blitzball player, and then when he was sin and found out he was sin, that's the one time that once you enter sin and get towards the end, the Titus actually said he decided that he was his father's son. And then Yuna's duty, like she's always about duty. I have to be the summoner they call the final way on in Cosmo and Death. Um, she does it out of a sense of duty. She doesn't want someone else to take that up because she'd rather it be her. And then you have what she actually wants, which she wants to go to Xanarkin with Titus, but she can't, and she'll never see it. That type of thing. So for its time, FF10 was visually groundbreaking. Now, I was playing the remaster, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, remaster. Which I was kind of disappointed with because, yeah, the main character sprites for the character models looked great. But when you looked at like a lot of the NPCs, you couldn't even see or recognize their faces. Like Yuzu and Gato was freaking terrible. Some of the townspeople were terrible. Uh, yeah, it would have just been nice if those models would have been updated as well. Um, the voice acting actually adds personality and weight to the characters, which we definitely see going into future Final Fantasy games. And now we'll continue on. So, in conclusion, Final Fantasy X is timeless. It stands out among Final Fantasy being the first with voice acting and a lot better graphics because it was the first one on the PS2. Yes, I was there for the PS2. Um, but a lot of people, including myself, go back to it and play it. I know some of my server members, especially one, likes this game a lot and will go back to playing it and plays like probably know well no I shouldn't say probably definitely knows a lot of the secrets more than I do. So if you know some of them secrets, drop that in the comments below and tell me about it. Um, so it was definitely a defining entry in the franchise and a landmark in gaming history with the fact of all the new stuff that we got and a lot of the new stuff we got due into new Final Fantasies like the storytelling, the graphics, and at the end of the day, the voice acting. So hope you guys want to talk about this game and tell me what your thoughts are on it in the comments below. Hey guys, Dennis here with the list. Thanks for watching my rant about Final Fantasy X. Hopefully you will like and subscribe because it helps with the algorithm and shows that I'm doing a good job and all that jazz. If you want to talk about this game or other games, you can jump into the Discord server, which is in the description below. We also do card games like Yu-Gi-Oh, and we do tabletop games like D&D over there as well. So hopefully you guys will check back in for the next one. Peace.